Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311 or visit nyc.gov.
Hello, I'm Donna Corrado, Commissioner of the New York City Department for the Aging. New York Connects is a trusted place for people of all ages, regardless of income or disability, to discover ways to remain independent at home and in their communities. And if you are in need of skilled nursing care or residential placements, we're here to help. To learn more, call 311 and ask about New York Connects today. Thank you.
Did you know Metro Plus Health Plan, part of NYC Health and Hospitals, is the plan of choice for 500,000 New Yorkers? For nearly a decade, Metro Plus has been the top-rated health plan in customer satisfaction. Metro Plus offers affordable health insurance coverage for New Yorkers of all incomes, including a plan with $0 to $20 monthly deductibles. Find out more at metroplus.org.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311.
Criminal record, you can work with that. I'm Human Rights Commissioner Carmelyn P. Malalas. It's now illegal for most NYC employers to ask about criminal records of job applicants in ads, applications, or in interviews before making a job offer. When employers consider qualifications first, more New Yorkers go to work. That makes businesses strong and powers our economy. To file a complaint or report a violation, and for employers who want free trainings on the law, contact the Commission on Human Rights by calling 311 or visit nyc.gov/humanrights.
Comenzando el 1 de enero, hay una mejor manera de llegar al trabajo con la Ley de Beneficios de Transporte de la Ciudad de Nueva York. La mayoría de negocios con 20 empleados o más de tiempo completo en la Ciudad de Nueva York deben ofrecer un programa de ahorros para transporte al trabajo. Tanto los empleados como los empleadores ahorran. Llame al 311 para aprender más sobre esta ley.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311 or visit nyc.gov.
I'm Roy Mogolansky, Executive Director for the City of New York Office of Payroll Administration. Did you know city employees can save money on commuting expenses to work? When you sign up for the city's WageWorks Commuter Benefits Program, the funds for your commuting costs are set aside from your paycheck before taxes are taken out. So you pay less in taxes, up to $1,200 a year if you take mass transit, and up to $2,400 a year if parking is part of your commute. Visit getwageworks.com/NYC.
Attention all New York City vendors. This is Lisette Camilo, Commissioner of the Department of Citywide Administrative Services. As of July 1st, 2016, email will be the primary way to notify vendors of available business opportunities for a request for bids and proposals. Be sure to enroll, update your business information, and include your email address in the Payee Information Portal at nyc.gov/PIP or call 311 for assistance.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311.
This is New York City Comptroller Scott Stringer. It's my job to protect the city's bottom line and ensure that every New Yorker has equal economic opportunity and access to government. My Community Action Center is here to help. If you need assistance from my office, from questions about your pension, a claim against the city, or even concerns about a possible labor law violation, call us at 212-669-3916.
Hello, this is Donna Corrado, Commissioner of the New York City Department for the Aging. Elder abuse comes in many forms and may include financial exploitation, physical, sexual, or emotional abuse, neglect, or abandonment. Concerned family members, friends, and neighbors can help. If you hear threats or yelling, see bruising or other suspicious behavior, and your gut tells you something is wrong, reach out to a trained professional for advice. Call 911 in an emergency or 311 and ask to speak with an elder abuse specialist and do your part to protect our city seniors.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311 or visit nyc.gov.
Did you know that NYC Health and Hospitals serves 1.4 million New Yorkers? Our health system includes hospitals, neighborhood health centers, nursing homes, and post-acute care centers. We are a home care agency and a health plan, Metro Plus. Our talented and diverse workforce is uniquely able to offer high-quality and culturally responsive health care to patients and families. Visit us at nychealthandhospitals.org.
So, Michael's going to start.
Thanks for coming out to Bushwick today. My name is Michael Vaz. I'm the director of Bushwick Highland Community Center. This community is really important to me. I've been the center director here for nearly 3 years and seen a lot of changes during that time. One of the greatest ways we could promote opportunity in this neighborhood is to promote safety. That's so fundamental. I'm grateful that Mayor de Blasio and NYCHA Chairman, NYCHA Chairwoman Olatoye, have heard our calls for more lighting and resources. Mayor de Blasio and his administration are working very hard for New Yorkers, moving us in the right direction with the mayor's action plan for neighborhood safety. Before, a lot of areas in the Bushwick houses were left in the dark. People just weren't comfortable walking around. Now, areas that were once dark are well lit. The new lights have given residents, youth, and seniors alike a greater sense of security. More kids are involved in programming at the center now than ever before, doing positive things with positive role models. This keeps them safe and out of trouble. I see more police around. They're actively engaged with our kids at the center. This goes a long way in bridging the gap between youth and law enforcement. It fosters a better relationship. We're doing our part, but we can't make our community safer on our own. We need strong partners like the mayor and NYCHA. Mayor de Blasio, thank you for doing a phenomenal job, providing funding and resources that expand opportunities for our youth and improving safety. I see the impact of this on a daily basis. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you our mayor, Bill de Blasio.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Michael. I really want to commend you for the work you do here, particularly serving our young people, and the initiatives that we put in place to give young people a lot of positive opportunities, make a huge difference in their lives. And Michael, your leadership and the team that you work with makes a big, big difference. So thank you very, very much. It is a good day and a day when we have something very tangible to talk about that is happening here at Bushwick Houses, but it's happening in a lot of other developments as well. I just want to take you back in time for a moment. You remember just a few months into my mayoralty, there was an uptick in violence in some of our developments, and there was tremendous concern. And we talked with residents of the developments, and we talked with NYPD, and obviously leaders of NYCHA. And what came out of those discussions was something very fundamental. That one of the things that was, unfortunately, a real part of the problem was the lack of light. That so many of these developments did not have the kind of lighting in place they needed. And residents were profoundly concerned about it. They did not feel safe. But when we talked to NYPD, it became even clearer. NYPD was working so hard to keep residents safe
but had one hand tied behind their back because they didn't have a well-lit area to work in. So we devoted ourselves immediately to putting in temporary lighting in a number of developments that had the most severe violence problems. But then we said we wanted to solve the problem with permanent lighting. And here at the Bushwick houses, you are seeing the results of that initiative, and you can see with your own eyes that it's happening, and you can see the difference it will make in the lives of residents here. So for the first time since the 1980s, exterior lights at Bushwick houses have been replaced and updated and made modern so they can actually reach the areas they're supposed to cover and keep people safe and give people that sense of safety and help the NYPD to do its job. 305 new light fixtures, brand new, covering the entire development. So I was walking with our chair through just the last block, and she pointed out that every one of those light poles you see is a brand new fixture, 305 brand new light fixtures, and what an impact that's going to make all over the development. And think about it, all over the city, who would want to walk down a street that wasn't well lit? Our residents in public housing deserve the same rights as everybody else. So this is a great example of the changes we can and will make. Now, this is being done here and at 14 other NYCHA developments. These, again, are the 15 developments total that we identified 2 years ago as needing particular help to stop violence. And those 15 developments in total house over 62,000 New Yorkers. So this is reaching a lot of people and will make them safer. This is part of a $140 million effort that we call the Mayor's Action Plan for Neighborhood Safety. And we wisely came up with the acronym MAP and did not use those last two words. So the Mayor's Action Plan for Neighborhood Safety, but better known as MAP. And it really reflects our values and our belief that residents of NYCHA deserve what everyone else in this city deserves. I want to thank some of our colleagues who are here. You're going to hear from a few others in a moment. But I want to thank our Deputy Mayor for Health and Human Services, Dr. Emilia Blasio, for being here. And I want to thank Amy Sandeman, the Executive Director of MAP, who's leading this great initiative, and thank her for her great work. We were going to be joined by the Tenant Association President, Lahoma Shipman, but unfortunately she had to be at work today, so she couldn't be here, but we thank her for her leadership. I also want to thank the offices of Manhattan DA Cy Vance, who has supported this effort all over the city, and Assemblymember Maritza Davila, who's been a key player in our effort as well. We thank them all. Now, we all know that our housing authority is the ultimate example of affordable housing in New York City, and this really should never be left out of the discussion. Unlike so many other cities in the country, we start with a large, strong housing authority, and one that we're reinforcing all the time. 400,000 people plus live in housing authority buildings. That's one of the ways we keep this city affordable for so many people. And that reality has been true for decades and decades. This is one of the most important elements of affordable housing in the city. But at the same time, our residents, okay, who's having a technical problem back there? You got it? All right. At the same time, our residents have felt decades, not just years, decades of federal disinvestment. So the quality of life that used to exist in housing authority buildings when there was many, many more millions of dollars coming in each year from the federal government, it's obviously had a very negative effect on people's lives. That's why we are redoubling our efforts, and we're doing the things that we can do more and better to help bridge that gap, and again, to also never take our eye off the fact that the day should come when the federal government does re-engage this issue. Maybe that day is not too far in the future, given some of the changes that could occur this year in our nation. But we're never going to stop fighting that fight, but at the same time, we've had to both stabilize the housing authority and make sure that these key safety issues are addressed. Now, again, think about everyday people's lives. Coming home late from work at night, going out shopping, you need to feel safe, and that is about having the lighting that makes you safe, that makes you know that you can see what's happening around you, and obviously that law enforcement can see what's happening around. This lighting will have a big impact, and construction will begin as well on top of that soon on additional elements of our security efforts here, including new surveillance cameras and layered access control doors. That's a much better system for locking doors and keeping buildings safe, and this is the wave of the future here in NYCHA. That's the physical part of the changes that we're making, but there's other things that we have to do. We have to deepen the relationship between police and community in our NYCHA developments. And we know when that relationship deepens, people become safer. So we deployed 2 neighborhood coordination officers to the Bushwick houses. And those officers are obviously specially trained to implement our neighborhood policing strategy, and we think it's going to make a big difference. And as we talked about in the beginning, we have to be there for our young people. We have to make sure they have positive options. So the community center here in Bushwick houses will be open until 11 p.m. every night from now until September. And they'll give kids opportunities for recreation, for sports, but also if they want to do dance, if they want to do computer coding, there's going to be so many different activities, day and night, positive ways of engaging our young people and giving them a chance to learn as well. We want Bushwick to be the best it can be, and these are the kind of changes we need to achieve that. More police presence, new lights, new cameras and doors, more programs for our young people. These are the kinds of things that actually change a community, and we're going to do this and more in the years ahead. Let me say a few words in Spanish. Hoy me complace mucho anunciar que hemos completado la instalación de más de 300 luces exteriores nuevas en Bushwick Houses. Todos los neoyorquinos merecen vivir en un sitio bien iluminado, en el que pueden sentirse seguros. Este trabajo es parte de nuestro plan para enfrentar el crimen y mantener la seguridad de todos los residentes de viviendas públicas. With that, I now want to turn to our chair, and I want to tell you it is a big, big job being the chair of the Housing Authority and having responsibility for the lives of those 400,000 people. And from the beginning, Shola understood that that was going to take transformation and creativity and strength, and she has shown all those attributes throughout the last 2+ years and is really helping to put NYCHA on the footing it needs for the future. It's my pleasure to introduce Chair Shola Olatoye.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that gracious introduction, and I want to thank the Center Director, Mr. Vaz, for hosting us here this afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Bushwick. I want to thank and acknowledge our colleagues in government, Councilman Antonio Reynoso, who's been as I called him, an early adopter to our work at of implementing Next Generation NYCHA, our colleagues at the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice, Amy Sandeman, and of course, our colleagues at NYPD, led by Chief Secreto. Thank you so much, and many, many other folks who have been a part of this work here at the Housing Authority to really ensure what is very simple, something that the Mayor said. Everyone deserves to have a safe, clean, and connected community, and that is the vision of our work, of our 10-year strategic plan, Next Generation NYCHA. It is with partners like our residents and other community partners. And that's why it's so important that we're here today to acknowledge that we heard you, that we heard our residents, and we heard the broader community around the issues of how to make people feel safe with the installation of lights, with the soon-to-be installation of layered access and additional CCTV cameras here at Bushwick, already adding to the 84 cameras that are here and the 44 cameras that are at Bushwick 2. So, as we head into the summer season, it's especially important for us to double down on the work that MAP has instigated here. As the mayor indicated, Bushwick is one of 15 sites that are the focus. We're outfitting all of these developments with a more than $140 million investment with lights, cameras, and other controls. We here at Bushwick, as we just installed 305 lights, approximately $4.1 million of city investment. And we will continue to work on securing these buildings in our role as the owner and caretaker of people's homes. Since 2014, we've spent about $65 million in installing and upgrading security cameras and layered access controls throughout NYCHA, adding to our now total of about 13,000 cameras throughout the Housing Authority. And I think, as Mr. Vaz and the mayor as well said, that this does require partnership, and it requires outside of the box thinking and approaches. And that's why I'm so pleased that we, under the leadership of Chief Nelson, who is the Vice President for Public Safety at the Housing Authority, we've now convened our Public Safety Advisory Committee, which really seeks to bring in not just residents and NYPD, but members of the District Attorney's Office and other community partners to help us address this issue, which is so clearly one that is all of our concern. So we are working closely with all of these partners. We know that it's important to have programming. We also know it's even more important to connect folks to opportunity. And really, at the mayor's direction, we have continued to expand our pathways to opportunities for NYCHA residents last year, connecting more than 2,500 residents to permanent employment. So this is a comprehensive effort to not only secure our buildings, but also offer and strengthen the pathway to opportunity. And that's what we're doing as part of Next Generation NYCHA. So I want to thank the mayor for his continued support and all of the partners to help us recognize that vision of a safe, clean, and connected community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shola. Before our next speaker, I also want to commend Chief Nelson. And it was not long ago I called to congratulate you on your retirement as Chief of Brooklyn North for NYPD. But I'm thrilled you're now playing the role you're playing at NYCHA, and it is going to absolutely deepen the close working relationship between NYCHA and NYPD. And we thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And now the man who's responsible for safety and security in all housing developments all over New York City and doing a tremendous job. And I want to congratulate you, Chief, up front for really important news this morning of a tremendous victory, taking down gang members who were doing so much to harm the lives of public housing residents. I want to commend you and the entire NYPD. It's my pleasure to introduce the Housing Bureau Chief, James Secreto.
Good afternoon, everyone. And as the mayor referenced, this morning there were 2 takedowns, one in the 101 Red Fern houses, and the second one in the 25th Precinct, PSA 6, I believe, Lincoln houses. Both involve drug, crew, gang violence, and in coordination with the U.S. Attorney's Office, our Narcotics Division, and OCCB involved in those takedowns. One of the things that I wanted to talk about this morning, and the mayor also referenced this, was the MAP developments, the mayor's action plans. And we're seeing a modicum of success in these developments. There are 15 developments, and they accounted for 20% of the violence in the city, and that's why they were selected, and Bushwick being one of them. And when I first took over this position, Bushwick had, had 4 shootings versus none, and that was in 2014. Last year they had 2 shootings at this time, and now they have 1. Overall, those developments, they're up 2.5%, 8 crimes, but they're down 7 shootings, which is 43%, and there are 9 of those developments that have 0 shootings, which is significant because that wasn't the case before. In this area, this Bushwick area, there are 9 developments, and those developments are 303 Vernon, Bed-Stuy Rehab, Marcy, Sumner, Tompkins, Roosevelt, Borinquen, Bushwick, and Williamsburg. and those developments are collectively down 24%. So there are some good things happening in this vicinity, in this area. Those takedowns that I referenced are a big part of the strategy in NYPD right now. You're seeing them throughout the city, and that's helping us get a handle on the violence. And overall in housing, we're down 15 shootings year to date. I think it's 17%. We had 90 last year. We have 75 this year. So we're making some progress in the violence, and that's really where we want to start ground zero for our crime strategy. One thing I left out, the mayor likes me to talk about this. I grew up in public housing, so about a mile from here in the Albany houses. So it's not just a job for me. It's something I'm passionate about. It's a sore spot in my heart, housing and safety and the residents of housing. That's pretty much it. Oh, the NCOs, the mayor referenced the NCOs. I'm sorry that they're not here. We can't show them off. But I already, this morning as I got here, some people complimented me how great they're doing. So it's a good program. We rolled it out in some 25 precinct city, initially, and now they're expanding to others. But it's a great program, and it seems to be working well over here in Bushwick. And then recently we had neighborhood stats. I know you've heard of CompStat, but neighborhood stat was, in police headquarters, we've invited all of the stakeholders involved with these map developments, sanitation, NYCHA, domestic violence, people, NYPD, and we all strategized and came up with, holding people responsible for fixing things that are wrong. That's a process that has worked so well in NYPD over 25 years, and now we're using it with these map developments as well. So that's pretty much it for me, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Chief, and congratulations. And finally, I want you to hear from the council member who represents this community, and I want you to know Antonio Reynoso has really been a partner in all these efforts, and he's also pushed us very hard to do more and do it quickly. And I want to also congratulate you, council member, on the successful budget passed yesterday by you and your colleagues. And we really, really appreciate your partnership and the focus you've put on public housing. Councilmember Reynoso.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for being here in Bushwick Houses in Williamsburg. I just really want to say I'm extremely grateful to have you here, seeing this firsthand and the work that it's done in Bushwick Houses. You could have easily justified not doing anything, just sustaining what we've had in the past, given the budget cuts that we've seen come from the federal government. And instead, you decided to put in more resources than what we traditionally saw here in Bushwick Houses. And it is because of that, what people don't see, that's not on the papers that Secreto's reading from, not trying to say anything about that, but the kids playing basketball in the park right now, for example, things that we weren't seeing for many summers in Bushwick Houses because of the fear parents had to have their kids come outside. But that's now happening, and we're building in Bushwick Houses in a positive way. We have a great program here in this site that is doing amazing work with young people. The NCOs are absolutely been amazing. They're here every single day. When they're not supposed to be here, they're here volunteering their time when they know they have to be here on a weekend or outside of work. So just overall, we're really paying attention to the neediest portions of our community, and that is what our jobs are. And I'm grateful that I could even be a part of the process to continue to help Bushwick Houses. So thank you very much. And not only are the fixtures, do they work? They look nice as well. They're actually good-looking fixtures, which is also important. You didn't do the bare minimum. You thought about what you were doing. You respected the people in Bushwick Houses, and for that, we thank you. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Antonio. And I want to note one more point on the NCOs, because I think that's a great example that the councilman gave. This is neighborhood policing. This is something that has been talked about for decades, never achieved on a continuous basis in this city. And we believe this will be the moment. And that example of NCOs caring so much about the community they're serving that they give of themselves, they give their own time, particularly to work with young people, This is going to be one of the things that really changes this city, and you're all seeing the earliest manifestations of this, but it's going to grow and grow and be an entirely different approach to policing. NYPD has already done an amazing job driving down crime. I predict even more when the NCO program and neighborhood policing fully takes hold. So let's take questions on this announcement today and NYCHA-related issues, and then we'll go to off-topic. You can introduce, please.
We have our two NCOs in the back.
You have to come up so we can applaud you. I'm going to quiz them for a moment. We're going to do mini Comstat here. Tell us each your name.
My name is Officer Daniel O'Connell. I'm Officer Kyle Barris.
And how long you been here at Bushwick Houses?
The NCO program?
Yep.
The NCO program started in January, so we've been doing this since the beginning.
Excellent. And do you feel you've been able to really build relationships with a lot of the residents?
100%, yes.
And does it make a difference in policing?
It does. It makes it a lot easier for us.
You heard it here first. Thank you both for what you do. All right, questions on this topic, and then we'll broaden out. Yes, Grace.
On the question about the lighting, the first is, was the problem that the lights that existed just didn't work anymore, or were there not enough initially, the old lighting system? And then secondly, the new lights look like they don't have any glass on the side, is that right? And I'm wondering if that was a design specifically to prevent them from being cracked or harmed in some way.
So that's for me. We can get you the specific design specs that I think and we have our professionals here who can talk to you about that, but I think Bushwick was not unique in that the lighting was dated. It was, there was certainly an issue of repair, and also that the actual mechanics of the lights were either did not turn on properly, did not have a broad sort of scope, so they weren't actually lighting much of the actual area, and they also weren't in areas that were actually being populated or used. So one of the important things that we've done with this effort is working closely with property management staff, residents, and the broader community, and certainly NYPD. Where should the new lighting be located? Where are those heavily trafficked areas? Where are those areas where new lights would also support and augment the existing camera location as well? So, and again, I don't think Bushwick is unique from that. These are a lot of the lighting features were original to the development. So the new design has allowed us to take a much more forward design approach. In terms of the specific design specs, we'll follow up with you offline with that answer.
Okay, yes.
Are these lights on currently? Like, do they work? If we were here at night, would we see them on? Or
Yes.
Okay, then to follow up, does that mean that in the future there won't be, the department won't be using those sort of massive floodlights that are often placed at high crime areas? Because those are often complained about by residents. I noticed one walking here, so I'm wondering why that was there.
Well, let me just do an overview point, then turn to the experts. Talked to a lot of NYCHA residents over the years. I would say the greatest complaint is when there is no lighting and the sense of danger that comes with it. So in 2014, when we recognized that lighting was a crucial strategic part of the problem, we used that temporary lighting. It wasn't perfect, but it was a lot better than not having the lighting. The goal, of course, is to move to the permanent lighting wherever possible. But I would just argue the central point is wherever we think there's a safety issue that lighting can help to solve. You know, perfect is the enemy of good. I'd still rather have a lighting that's not ideal but can bridge us to when we can do something permanent than no lighting at all. Please.
Yeah, I was going to say those lights were never meant to be permanent, and they were gas-powered generators. They're noisy, but these new lights that are permanent, they're really nice and they're bright. So that's the way we're going in the future.
Okay. On this topic or NYCHA-related topics. Please.
Mr. Mayor, on NYCHA funding, there was still money from I guess it would be the last state budget that the city was waiting for from the state. What's the status
The $100 million in capital funding that we were hoping was going to be used for the most fundamental repairs needed in our buildings. Last I checked in, we still had not received clarity from the state, and obviously, you know, we're on the verge of a whole other legislative year about to end. Do you have an update?
We're working closely with our colleagues at DASNY and
Tell them what
DHCR,
DASNY is.
the Dormitory State of New York, and
Dormitory Authority.
Thank you, Dormitory Authority, and the Department for Homes and Community Renewal, who are actually the receiving entities of these dollars and will actually be doing the work. What NYCHA's role has been to help provide them information, help them actually give them access to the sites. We continue to be that partner at the table, but we are still awaiting work starting.
I'm sorry, to your point, it's frustrating. We have, I mean, you go through so many NYCHA buildings, they desperately need repairs. The city has put money in well beyond what's been done in the past. Federal government's so absent when it comes to the big capital repairs. And, you know, the state duly voted $100 million last year's budget. That goes back to April of 2015, and we haven't seen a dime yet. So we really need movement on that because people are suffering and they need the help.
What do they say to you when you're saying what's the holdup?
I think we are, you know, there is a process that the state is trying to work through. And what I've focused my team on is making sure that we are a responsive partner in providing the information that they need in order to move forward, and that's really all I can say.
Okay, on this topic or anything NYCHA? Going once, going twice. Okay, open to any and all. Take it away. Yes.
I'd like to ask about mayoral control. Two-parter, if I might. The legislature in Albany is going to decide something or nothing on this week. Do you think that the Senate Republicans would suffer any political damage from the way that they have negotiated on mayoral control, and do you feel that you have the support of the governor in your push for the extension?
On the first question, I'm not going to attempt an analysis. I would say it this way. There has been extraordinary outpouring of support for a clean extension of mayoral control and a multi-year extension. We've seen it from editorial boards. We've seen it from an extraordinary cross-section of the business community. We've seen it from Democrats and Republicans alike. I think the message has been received loud and clear in Albany that an extraordinary consensus exists in this city that we need mayoral control to keep fixing our schools. I commend the governor for reiterating the 3-year time frame. I commend the Assembly for having voted once again for the 3-year time frame. They did it originally through the budget, and they did it again recently. And Speaker Hastie has been very, very clear, to his great credit, that it's time to put all the politics aside and decide this issue and focus on our kids and do a clean extension of mayoral control. So my answer would be, I think the message has been received loud and clear in Albany, and now it's time for them to decide. Do you have one over here? Go ahead.
Are you or the Department of Education having any discussions or contingency plans if it's not extended?
There's not a specific discussion underway. Obviously, we went through this last year, so we were able to do a little bit of thinking about what it would look like if it weren't extended. And we understand some of the first steps we'd have to take if that were the case. I want to remind everyone, if mayoral control is not extended, you go back to a system, again, I say this with purity of definition, a system that was characterized by chaos and corruption. That's what happened in the previous system, and that's what's at stake here. But I want to believe that, as often happens in Albany, those final hours of a legislative session, extraordinary things can happen, and that we can get to an acceptable place. Marcia.
Mayor, I wonder how you feel about the decision by the City Council to defund the Simon Wiesenthal Center, seeing as it was doing programs to teach sensitivity and tolerance to police and to correction officers.
I haven't really looked at that. That was a decision the City Council made, and I don't know the program well. Obviously, I know Simon Wiesenthal's work historically, but I don't know that program well, and that was something the council decided to do.
Decided it because they said that there were connections to the corruption investigations. Do you think that that was a prudent decision by the council?
I don't critique how they make choices about their spending.
The Red Guidelines Board is going to vote later on in the month, and there are some advocates that say that there should actually be a rollback this year because the tile is negative. Do you have an opinion on this? Do you call for a rollback?
I've said, that we've set a clear standard and we're going to live by it. That unlike in the past, I'll be very straightforward about this. In the past, the playing field was not level, and the facts and the concerns of tenants were not weighed sufficiently. It's just a plain fact, because when we appointed a new rent guidelines board in 2014, and they looked at the facts, it became clear to them that there were many instances in which landlords were claiming a lot of charges that just weren't fully accurate, and tenants were getting increases they didn't deserve. And so under our administration, we have a very clear message, a very clear approach for the Rent Guidelines Board. Look at all the facts and let the facts guide the decision. Now, the last couple of years, for example, the cost of energy has gone way down. That's a big expense for landlords and, in fact, has been steadily decreasing. So it made no sense to increase tenants' rents if the landlord's costs were decreasing. I will leave it to the Rent Guidelines Board to look at the nuance of what you're asking. But what I care about is that all the facts are taken into account and that it is a level playing field. I think this Rent Guidelines Board is doing a very good job with that. David?
In the first days after the Remington deal came to public knowledge, your administration told members of the media that Deputy Mayor Shores had no knowledge of anything, the deal happening in 2015, and only found out in February of 2016. Two memos that were sent from DCAS to Deputy Mayor Shores in 2015 showed that they were updating him on progress as to the lifting of that deed restriction. Why did your administration say you didn't know anything about it?
And I'm very comfortable that our statements have been consistent and are accurate. There's a whole investigation underway, and those results will be published soon. But the bottom line is the most important thing I want to stand by is my statements about Allure, that company did not tell us the truth. And I think we have further evidence of that fact in the Attorney General's action. Now we see a pattern of that company not telling government the truth about its intentions. But again, everything will be put together in a formal report, and that will be coming out. Yes, go ahead.
The explanation that he didn't see it? Is that what happened?
Again, I believe our statements are accurate.
Question that is two similar parts, but it's about your sort of directions to your campaign about fundraising. Let's just take 2017 re-election campaign. When money comes in, what protocol do you tell your people in terms of notifying you about a donation? Are you notified every time a max donation comes in, or how often are you updated on that?
No, in the last campaign, I got to get the exact count, but thousands and thousands of donations. Now, I will admit to you there was a time early in the mayoral campaign when a maximum donation was a very unusual thing in our campaign, so it certainly got attention then. But as my campaign progressed, it became a little more typical, and a lot of other donations of all sizes. So no, it was never a sort of reviewing specific donations in that way. But the instruction was to look carefully at every donation, and there was a thorough vetting process. And whenever there was a feeling on behalf of the lawyers or the others who looked at it that a donation did not make sense to accept, it was returned.
Well, that was really the second part, but I'll ask it a little bit differently. Are your instructions to your campaign vet this before accepting it, or is it everything comes in and then we sort of take a look at things if there's flags?
I don't personally instruct them, the lawyers instruct, but the bottom line, which I'm certainly aware of, is vet before you deposit. So a check can come in, you have no idea it's coming in. It can come in the mail, it can come in at an event, but you have to vet it before depositing and be very careful in trying to make sure that everything's proper. Yeah.
I just wanted to get the state senate has sort of been Senator Leader Flanagan has sort of proposed for a new 421A program. I wanted to get your personal take on that 421A program. And a related sort of question,
Okay, wait. Let's do them. Let's separate them because I want to work on the first one. We'll give you the second one after. On 421A, the proposal from the Senate obviously included some items we wouldn't agree with. I want to take us to the core of this. The 421A program needed to be changed. And when we came in with our proposal last year, it was to fundamentally change a program that was no longer appropriate. You know, you've seen some of the examples of luxury buildings with no affordable housing that got tax breaks. Our message was that this program must fundamentally change. It has to stop rewarding luxury buildings. It has to create a lot more affordable housing all over the 5 boroughs. It has to be a lot more fair to the taxpayer. Even with all the back and forth and the drama, the good news is that old 421A that was not right for today's day and age is gone, and it ain't coming back. So there was that much to be said so far about this process. But look, I think it's incumbent upon Albany to resolve this issue. It would be ideal to resolve it in the next few days while there's focus, because we need it for affordable housing. I've said to you guys, and I believe every poll proves this to be accurate, that affordable housing is the #1 issue on the minds of New Yorkers. They are scared to death about being displaced from their own city. They look to Albany to help them be able to afford their lives in the city. 421A done right with the reforms we've proposed is one of the best ways to continue to build affordable housing in this city. So Albany has to get it right. Now go on to your second question, I'm sorry.
Like the Senate proposal, like Flanagan's proposal, is that a proposal that you would...
As I said, there's elements of that we don't agree with because they aren't consistent with the reforms we propose.
Okay, so you would say, is that better than nothing?
No, I would say the one thing that's better than nothing was getting rid of the old 421A. It would be a travesty to have continued that because, again, it wasted taxpayer dollars on subsidies to luxury buildings and it didn't create enough affordability. At least that negative has been addressed, and I think we played a constructive role in that. It's time for a positive. It's time to reform 421A and get it back into action. The housing market is slowing. There's a lot of evidence out there that the housing market is slowing. We're not going to be able to create the kind of affordable housing we need in the city if we don't have a tax credit program that's appropriate, that really focuses on affordability. So Albany has a couple of days to get it right. That's the ideal. But as you indicated, there is an additional methodology through the previous MOU from last year that it still could be settled even after this Friday. And the most important thing is that this thing gets resolved as quickly as possible so we can get back to the work of creating affordable housing. I'm sorry, what's that?
The second part of that question regarding that both the governor and the Speaker Casey have said they will only basically pass a 421A program that is palatable to Gary Barker and the Building Trades Council of New York. They've said Gary Barker and his unions that he represents have said they're okay with a 421A that extends to condos and then to prevailing wages on condos, or a 421A that creates a zone, from 14th Street to 96th Street Manhattan.
Yeah, I'll be straight up with you. I'm not going to go into the details because that is a negotiation. If it ends up being a negotiation through that MOU process, those players have to work it through. We're going to keep pushing the same pillars I talked about. Not rewarding the big luxury buildings, more bang for the buck for taxpayers, more affordable housing. So if those entities have to work it out, my message to them is work it out and soon so we can create affordable housing. I gave you enough. Go ahead.
Mayor, your DDC commissioner gave a contract to a magazine publisher who featured him in an entire magazine, even though his staff said that the work was subpar. Have you examined that situation? Do you believe everything was done properly?
I have not examined it. I have no reason to doubt what was done, but I haven't examined it. I have full faith in the commissioner. Yeah.
The New York City TV and film workers are calling on you to avoid the shutdown of Eastern Effects Studio. What's your take on that?
We want to help them. And we said this last week when we did the ambassadors event with some of our leading cultural figures in this city. We want to help Eastern Effects. And we're very willing to, and our folks are engaged with them, and there's time. And I certainly understand their sense of urgency, but there's time because the actions that, from what I understand, would negatively affect them are some distance in the future. So we're going to work with them very hard to find a solution.
There are other sites there that are available. Why not take one of the
Again, sometimes people have trouble taking yes for an answer. We want to help them. There is time to work it out. We certainly want to see their business continue to thrive. I think ultimately we'll work it out with them. Okay.
Hi, Mayor. I have a question on national politics, if you don't mind. What do you make of the Washington Post being the latest of several outlets?
Wait. Slow that down. You're such a New Yorker. What did you say?
What do you make of the Washington Post being the latest of several outlets banned by Donald Trump?
It's ludicrous. It's ludicrous. I don't always get along with the New York Post, but they get to sit right there like everyone else, and I think it's crazy. It's crazy to say that some can sit at a press conference and some can't. That's a really slippery slope. And you know what? Again, I've said to you guys before, I come from a family of journalists, and one of whom just retired, my oldest brother. There's supposed to be a critique or a check and balance dynamic with the media and people in public office. It's as old as the Republic itself. And when, of all people, a presidential candidate starts saying that one of the most prestigious media outlets in the country can't come to the press conference, I mean, look, I don't know quite why Donald Trump's trying so hard to invalidate himself each day, but he's doing a hell of a good job. And that's the kind of thing that a lot of reasonable people in this country, including a lot of reasonable conservatives, look at something like that, and it really takes them aback. It really makes them uncomfortable because they still believe in a democratic society where the media has an important role to play. Okay. Yes?
Mayor, there are rumblings in the Republican Party now, apparently, among the power elite, if you will, that they want to dump Trump. Would you like to see that happen?
Look, I think it's physically impossible. I really do. I am not going to be a pundit, but it only takes eyes to see. The guy won all those primaries and all those votes and has all those delegates. I don't know how you undo that in a few weeks' time. I just don't. And I think it would create a huge backlash because, unfortunately, the Republican Party has created a very negative dynamic within itself by constantly aiding and abetting an extreme right wing that's part of that party that I'm sure will not take kindly to Donald Trump being dethroned. So no, I don't think it's possible. For the good of the country, should someone like Donald Trump not be the nominee of a major party? Of course he shouldn't be. He's not, again, I think what's so striking, and this is actually an affirmation of our democracy, he said and did a lot of outrageous and troubling things. His comments about the judge looking at the Trump University issue, who happens to be Mexican-American, and with great irony, born in Indiana, that hit the American people very, very deeply. And it's so interesting, what is the thing that really grabs people's attention and grabs their hearts and minds? But that one did, because it just cut against all our values, and it almost took some of his other outrageous statements and actions and put them into a clearer perspective. Because I think a lot of people in this country could put themselves in the shoes of that judge. We all come from someplace. And, the vast majority of Americans are from a background, whether it's a faith or a national background or ethnic background that once upon a time was not so popular here in this country. And to see a guy who's a respected jurist denigrated because he happens to be Mexican-American, I think that hit a very powerful chord and just further invalidated him. Do you want to add? You look ready to add. If you don't have to.
I'm going to move away from national politics and talk about Bushwick politics. Lahoma Shipman, who's the Tenant Association president, just walked in.
I want to give her
an opportunity to come up.
Come on up.
Yeah. And we've also been joined by a representative from Nydia Velasquez's office and our Deputy Borough President, Diana Reyna. Ms. Shipman, I think there's a seat for you at the front.
We welcome you. We said nice things about you when you weren't here, Ms. Shipman. Okay, because I'm going to be consistent with my values, I'm calling on the New York Post. Go ahead. I don't think I'm going to like the question, but I'm still calling on the New York Post.
Campaign finance records show you received, your 2013 campaign received some donations from people affiliated with Broadway stages. Some of those people, a handful of them, said they didn't know anything about making donations. What kind of vetting went into those donations?
I can let people who know a lot more about the specifics of the vetting process explain it, but I can say this much: we're certainly looking at those donations, and we'll review them. But typically, we look, of course, to make sure the forms are present and appropriate, and that all the basic legalities are met. We don't take donations from companies. We don't take donations from LLCs. I mean, there's just a checklist of things you go through. But anytime an issue is raised about a donation after the fact, we're happy to go back and look at it.
Logistically difficult. I mean, there's so much money coming into a campaign. Is it logistically difficult to have staff go through each one as they come in?
There's a lot of volume, but this is why I'd say I think we do a thorough job of identifying anything that's on its face does not belong. For example, a corporate donation needs to go back immediately, or anything over the limit. Sometimes there are things that are gray and we might miss, and if someone brings it to our attention, again, we're happy to review it and then judge accordingly. Okay, everyone, thank you very much.